All right, so these are going to be my Week 5 UFL power rankings. Let's get started. Starting off with our top performances, I'll go over the quarterbacks so you guys can look at anything else you want to. But EJ Perry, 8 for 16 for 74 yards and 30 rushing yards. Not very good. Did split time with Troy Williams, who was 4 for 8 for 13 yards. Still not very good. Then we had Bryce Perkins, who was really good, 15 of 22, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns with another 45 rushing yards. He was great. Max Duggan for the Battlehawks was really bad, 8 of 17 for 78 yards and 2 picks. Did have 42 rushing yards, but he was still really, really bad. Manny Wilkins also played this game. He was like 0 for 2 before he got injured. Louis Perez for the Renegades, 17 of 25, 150 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. He was all right. Matt Corral was solid, nearly 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did have 1 interception, about 50 rushing yards to go with that as well. Case Cookis did come in later in the game when Matt Corral got injured, and he was 1 of 2 for 36 yards. Jalen McClendon was really good after Nolan Henderson got down with injury. He was like 3 for 4 when he was playing. He was solid, but he didn't play more than like 1 drive. Jalen McClendon came in and was really good, 22 of 31, 236 yards. Did have an interception, but also had a rushing touchdown as well. Kellen Mond was pretty good, 14 of 20. Yardage isn't great, only 120 yards. We did have 1 touchdown. He's been getting better every week. And then Jordan Tayamu for the Defenders, nearly 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 74 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown as well. He was really, really good with his best completion percentage he's had all season. Moving on from there, we got the Memphis Showboats coming in at number 4. They're easily the worst team. They're the only team without a win, so they kind of have to go at number 8. They lost 27-9 versus the Panthers. They only had 150 yards of offense. Got outgained by over 200 yards. Had 1 turnover to 0 takeaways. They were just really bad. They had bad quarterback play, bad defense, just pretty bad all around. Number 7 is the Houston Roughnecks. They had a solid game here against the Stallions. Only lost by 7 points. Only got outgained by 30 yards. Actually won the turnover battle 2-1. And Jalen McClendon looked really good when he had to come in at quarterback. So going forward, they haven't made an official decision on Nolan Henderson's injury yet. But I think they're going to be really good without him. And if Jalen McClendon has to play, either one of those 2 quarterbacks has actually looked pretty solid when they've been playing. So they should be good with either one of those guys they have to do. But I can't really put them any higher than 7, even though they did have a pretty good game this week. Number 6 is the St. Louis Battlehawks, dropping 3 spots. They're now 2-2. They lost 30-15 versus the Renegades, although they were very much in this game until the last 30 seconds when they ended up throwing a pick 6 when they were within the 5-yard line. So they were this close to scoring a touchdown and potentially tying the game with under 30 seconds left. They just ended up throwing a pick 6, which makes the score look a lot worse than it was. But also, they had 4 turnovers this game. Not good. Max Duggan looked horrible. Hopefully he can be better going forward. Manny Wilkins, I believe, is on the IR, so they're going to be rolling with Max Duggan for the foreseeable future. They also did sign Brandon Silvers, who has history with the Battlehawks in 2023. He was with the Roughnecks a year ago, so maybe if Max Duggan is bad again this week, Brandon Silvers could take over pretty soon. Number 5 is San Antonio Brahmas. They move up 1 spot. They're 1-3. They had a good win against the undefeated, or the previously undefeated DC Defenders. They won 24-18. They actually got outgained by nearly 200 yards, and they still ended up winning this game. So that's really good to see that they were able to finish in the red zone offensively and hold in field goals defensively when the defenders got in the red zone. So not a great performance when you only put up 219 yards and allow over 400, but still ended up getting the win. So I got to move them up quite a bit of spots. Number 5, I feel like it's pretty good for them. Kellen Mond has continued to get marginally better every single week. And if he can continue to get better, going forward, this team could actually have a chance here in the XFL. Although, the other 2 teams are 3-1 that we're going to get to in a little bit. Number 4 is one of those teams, the Arlington Renegades, at 3-1. Did a good win, 30-15 over the St. Louis Battlehawks. So I already kind of mentioned this. They had 4 takeaways defensively. That was great. They had a defensive touchdown at the beginning of the game when Manny Wilkins got injured and then fumbled the ball. And also had the game-sealing pick 6 at the end of the game. So offensively, they only had like 2 touchdowns, but it's still solid. It's not horrible. And defensively, again, obviously, 2 defensive touchdowns, 4 total takeaways is really, really good. And Luis Perez was pretty good here as well. Number 3 is going to be the Birmingham Stallions, moving up 1 spot. They had a good game against the Roughnecks, 23-16. Outgained them by only 30 yards, though, and 2 turnovers to 1 takeaway isn't great. So I couldn't really move them up any more than just the number 3. They still look really good, but the Roughnecks are a pretty bad team, at least historically this season. And only beating them by 7 points isn't the most impressive victory. Number 2 is going to be the DC Defenders, dropping 1 spot after taking their first loss of the season, 24-18, versus the San Antonio Brahmas. The Brahmas looked really good. Again, I kind of mentioned this earlier. DC had over 400 yards of offense and only allowed 219 yards of offense. Had 0 turnovers as well, and they ended up losing this game. So that's obviously not great. The red zone offense and red zone defense was pretty atrocious in this game, but they still have looked very, very dominant through the first 3 weeks of the season, and they look pretty good this week as well. So I can't really harm them too much. And the number 1 is going to be the Michigan Panthers. They dominated the Showboats 27-9, although the Showboats are pretty bad. They had over 369 yards of offense and only led up 150 yards. So they, had almost 2.5 times the total yardage that they let up. So obviously really good in that aspect. Bryce Perkins was great. Denny Etling supposed to be back from injury, which shouldn't matter because Bryce Perkins has obviously been the better quarterback. But the Michigan Panthers have said that they are, still looking to have some looks in the game with Denny Etling, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but whatever. Next up here is our ranking. So XFL, we got the Defenders and Renegades both at 3-1, Battlehawks at 2-2, and Brahmas at 1-3. In the USFL, we got the Stallions and Panthers both at 3-1, the Roughnecks at 1-3, and the Showboats at 0-4. Looking at our quarterback power rankings, we have a lot of movement here. It's actually going to be this one. We have a lot of movement. I'll just get out of the way. We got a lot of movement in our quarterback power rankings. Bryce Perkins and Luis Perez swapped there at 1 and 2. Bryce Perkins was great this week. Luis Perez was good, but he did have an interception to go with it. Number 3 is going to be Jordan Ta'amu, jumping ahead of Manny Wilkins. Manny Wilkins, he was like 0 for 2 this week before he got injured, so not really his fault that he drops, but Jordan Ta'amu actually had his best game of the season by far this week, so he moves up 1. Nolan Henderson moves up ahead of Troy Williams actually here. He was pretty solid, 3 of 4 in his limited time he did play. Troy Williams was pretty bad in his limited time that he played. 6 is Jalen McClendon coming in here. Was unranked, of course, because he had not played coming into the game, but he was actually really solid in his game when he played. Number 7, Matt Corral, jumping ahead of 1 spot, jumping ahead of actually EJ Perry and Troy Williams, but then, of course, dropping below Jalen McClendon. He was solid in this game. Number 8, Troy Williams, dropping 3 spots below Matt Corral, below Nolan Henderson, and then below Jalen McClendon. He was 4 for 8 for like 17 yards in this game. He was pretty bad when he did end up playing. So he had pretty limited time, but he was bad in that limited time, so he is dropping a few spots. Number 9, Kellen Mond, staying at the same spot, but he actually jumps ahead of EJ Perry and below Jalen McClendon. He was pretty decent. Again, he's been kind of improving marginally each week, which is a good thing to see. Number 10 is EJ Perry, dropping 3 spots. He actually drops below Matt Corral, below Kellen Mond, and then below Jalen McClendon. He was pretty bad this week, 8 of 16 for 74 yards. Is not a good stat line. Number 11 is Case Cookus. He only threw 2 passes this week, but he was pretty good, 1 for 2 for 36 yards. And there's a good chance he has to start this week if Matt Corral is going to be injured. But with that said, he had a very limited sample size, but I still am going to rank him ahead of Alex Magoo right now. And then 12, 13, and 14, Alex Magoo, Denny Elling, Anthony Brown, none of them played this week. They all dropped 2 spots below Case Cookus and below Jalen McClendon. Max Dugan, similar story. He did play this week, but he was just really bad. So he's going to stay at the bottom there, dropping below Cookus and McClendon. And then Holton Allers was previously unranked, and he's going to be at the very bottom because he only threw 1 pass, and it was incomplete. And he has 0 rushing stats to boost his numbers at all. With that said, we're going to look into our attendance this week. Showboats at Panthers had 9,600, only 1,000-ish less than the Panthers average this season. So you expected it to go down a little bit because, their home opener was pretty high, and they actually went up after that. But 9,600 is still a really good number for Michigan. Renegades, Battlehawks, 9,600. just 200 less from the Renegade season average, so you're staying relatively close to that. Stallions Roughnecks at 6,600, pretty bad number. 500 less than the Roughnecks season opener this season, which you kind of expected, but you know that Houston is one of the worst markets here, so this is not surprising at all. In the Defenders and Brahmas game, had about 12,400, just 200 less than the Defenders average. Still really good numbers for them. Overall, our average is almost 9,600, just about 500 less than the average here of all these teams before this week. Lastly is going to be our TV viewership, which we actually have a lot of good numbers here. Showboats and Panthers had 679,000 on Fox, whereas the Friday night on Fox average so far this season has been 677K. So it actually is up 2,000 from that average. The Battlehawks and Renegades had 901,000 on ABC, where the ABC average before this was only 769,000. So it's a really big increase there. And then the Stallions and Roughnecks on Fox had 606,000, and the Brahmas and Defenders on Fox had 739,000. And then Fox's average before this week on non-Friday night games was only 584,000. So we saw two big improvements on those numbers on our Saturday and Sunday games here, which is good. And overall, our average here was 731,000, which I believe is the highest average we've had so far. And it's actually 80,000 up based on the averages of all of these ratings from this season. So that's going to be it for the season, or for the video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check back next week for an updated power rankings list, and goodbye.